Good afternoon and welcome everyone. We will begin in 5 minutes. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. My name is Mary Jordan and I am a senior benefit counselor here with the MoDOT and Patrol Employees Retirement System. I am your presenter today for our mid-career checkup webinar for 2011 tier employees, members. So I wanted to jump on with my camera just real quick to introduce myself, but now let's make that camera go away and get it out of the way so we can move on with all the good information today.
Mary, did you start the broadcast? So start over.
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
It started.
Okay. Is it recording? Yep, it is. My bad. Please continue.
Okay. Nope. That's why we do part of why we do what we do. That was Julie West. She is joining us this afternoon as our moderator to make sure everything works as it should, because sometimes we know technology just doesn't quite always do what we think it's going to do. So I appreciate you joining us, Julie, and making sure I stay on track, because I'm pretty sure I've not started that before, or at least not have my microphone going the way it should have. So as we progress through the webinar, if you do have questions, please share them in the questions section, because as Julie is moderating, she'll moderate or review those questions and share responses to those questions as I continue with the presentation today. So our presentation today is for those who have between 5 and 15 years of service, or are between 6 and 15 years out from their normal retirement eligibility date. If you're already eligible to retire or are within 5 years of retirement, you probably want to attend a pre-retirement webinar or an in-person seminar if there's one available in your area. There are things that you'll need to know to make sure that you know all the information you need for retirement decisions that you'll be making, and we will not necessarily discuss all of those details that are in the pre-retirement seminar today. So if you're interested in a pre-retirement webinar, you can register for one of those in our My MPERS Secure Member Access account when you log in there, or you can view a previously recorded one from our website. So MPERS administers 3 different retirement plans: the closed plan, the year 2000 plan, and the 2011 tier. So our webinar today is for 2011 tier members. So before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. This is kind of a troubleshooting guide. You should have received an email from me yesterday that also includes that troubleshooting guide. So first thing I want to let you know is that we do have everybody muted today. Your microphones are muted. That's to cut down on any background noise or distractions for the group. We also have Julie again joining us as our moderator, and she'll be able to answer any questions that you have. If you follow this dashboard all the way down to the bottom, it says questions. If you hit on that little arrow, let me turn my little highlighter on. If you hit on that little drop down arrow, that will give you a box that you'll be able to type down here towards the bottom. You'll be able to type any questions that you may have as we progress throughout the webinar. And again, Julie will answer those questions, but then we'll also regroup when we get to the end of my presentation so she can share any responses with you. Okay, there are some handouts as well. I did post in the chat section, if you happen to see that there is an updated handout for the deferred comp presentation. If you're able to get a copy of that, they also have provided a copy of their slides, their full presentation. I believe it's the full presentation in that handout section as well. You do also have options for how you listen to the webinar today. You can listen through your computer audio, your computer speakers, or maybe you want to call in by phone. Maybe you're sitting in a group setting or kind of out in the open and you'd rather call in and use a headset that way. If you move that radio button down to phone call, it will provide you with a phone number and a PIN number that you can call in. You'll still follow along with the presentation on your computer, but you'll just listen to it through a headset or through your phone. If you were to lose audio connection, I don't think it's happened as often more recently, but just in case, you may try moving that radio button down to no audio and then back to computer audio. That has worked for some in the past. So I think that covers our kind of housekeeping items. So let's move on to our next slide. So next, I'd like to introduce you to our MPERS benefit team. I've been with MPERS over 27 years in various roles and have been a benefit counselor for the past 19 years. We also have Julie West, who we just met at the beginning. She has been with MPERS a little over 6 years, starting out as our communications specialist, then transitioned last fall into a benefit counselor role with us here. And then we have Bev Wilson, who has been with us over 21 years. She works on a lot of special projects, including auditing all of the service and benefits that we pay out. So if you were to call in and speak with a benefit counselor, chances are you would be speaking with one of us. We also do in-person seminars, one-on-one visits with members. We do other webinars. We are also available to answer your questions that will help you prepare for your retirement. So you should have received an email from me yesterday afternoon that included our agenda for today. I did notice we had one later registration this morning, so I did try to catch you and send you a copy of that email probably the last 30-40 minutes or so. So hopefully you got that. I will be presenting the MPERS portion of the presentation today. Then I will turn it over to Jesse Stewart, who will present for deferred comp. We will take a short break in between the presentations, and that should be around 2 o'clock or a few minutes before that. So the great George Foreman once said, the question isn't at what age I want to retire, it's at what income. That is the purpose of our webinar today, to get you thinking about what your retirement income picture will look like when you do finally reach that glorious moment in your career. So let's get started. Retirement income generally doesn't come from only one source. If you're relying strictly on your MPERS pension to sustain you through your golden years, or only your future Social Security benefit, you may want to take a closer look at your retirement income puzzle and the different pieces that will make up your entire retirement income package. When considering what your future retirement income may look like and where it will come from, there are three main pieces of your puzzle as a state employee: your pension benefit from MPERS, your personal savings from deferred comp, and your Social Security benefit. If you have other sources of income, they are definitely a part of the puzzle as well, but we're only going to focus on the first two pieces mentioned here today: the MPERS pension benefit and your MO deferred comp. We will briefly mention Social Security at the end of the presentation, but that's not our area of expertise, and you'll need to research your options for your Social Security benefits independently. So MPERS is a defined benefit plan, or what is commonly referred to as a traditional pension plan. As I mentioned in the beginning, MPERS has three defined benefit plans: the closed plan, the year 2000 plan, and the 2011 tier. The plan that you are in is determined by your initial hire date in a benefit eligible position with the state of Missouri. You're in the closed plan if you're hired before July 1 of 2000. If you're hired on or after July 1 of 2000, but prior to January 1 of 2011, you're in the year 2000 plan. If you were hired after January 1 of 2011, then you're in the 2011 tier. As I'm already mentioned, in this webinar, we'll be looking only at the 2011 tier and will not be covering the closed plan or the year 2000 plan. There's another webinar that details those plans as well as information that is available on our website. So one of the characteristics of a defined benefit plan is that the benefit is not determined by how much the employee contributes to their retirement. In a defined benefit plan, future benefits are determined by a formula that is set by law. The 2011 tier uses the same formula as the closed plan and the year 2000 plan. The formula used to calculate future retirement benefits includes credited service, a multiplier set by law, and your final average pay. These components multiplied together give you a lifetime base benefit amount. Another characteristic of a defined benefit plan is that the retiree will receive the benefit for life. If the retiree chooses a survivor payment option at retirement, then after the retiree passes away, the benefit is payable for the survivor's lifetime as well. So we'll dive deeper into the formula in a few slides. So if the retirement benefit is for a lifetime, how is it funded? Another characteristic of a defined benefit plan is that it is not solely up to the employee to fund their retirement. Current and future benefits are funded by contributions by the employer, MPERS investment earnings and employee contributions. 2011 tier members contribute 4% of their salary to MPERS to help fund those future benefits. But wait, I know I said that it is not solely up to the employee to fund their retirement, but what about the 2011 tier members that have to contribute part of their salary to it? That's correct. While the funds that are being contributed are helping fund the future benefit of 2011 tier members, their benefit is not solely dependent on those future contributions. For example, let's say a 2011 tier retiree has $50,000 in their account from employee contributions that are applied to their retirement. When they retire, their benefit is paid from the funds they have contributed first. Once the funds have been depleted, they will continue to receive a benefit for their lifetime. The 4% contribution helps with the benefit, but is not the total benefit amount received. As I mentioned on the previous slide, employee contributions help fund current and future retirement benefits. As a 2011 tier member, the employee contributes, their employee contributions you have made belong to you. While you are an active employee, your contributions will earn interest annually. If you decide to take employment at a non-MPERS covered agency or in the private sector and you're vested, you will have the option of leaving your contributions in MPERS and they will continue to draw interest. Or you can request a refund of your contributions. Should you terminate employment, the best course of action is to contact an MPERS benefit counselor to discuss your options. If you begin employment in a benefit eligible position with a MOSHERS covered agency, MOSHERS is the Missouri State Employees Retirement System, and you have not taken a refund of your employee contributions and forfeited your service credit, you can elect to transfer your service and your employee contributions to MOSHERS, okay? When you begin employment at MoDOT or the patrol, you have you should have completed a designation of beneficiary for employee contributions form or a beneficiary form. This form allows you to name a beneficiary to receive your employee contributions in the event of your passing prior to your retirement eligibility. If you have not completed this form and wish to do so or need to update it, that form can be found on the MPERS website under resources. You cannot update beneficiaries online in your secure member access account. If you do use that account, you can view your beneficiaries, but you cannot update them there. We have to have a signed form for that. So as I mentioned previously, the 2011 tier is a defined benefit plan in which future benefits are determined by a formula that is set in state law. So let's take a look at that benefit formula now. Remember, the benefit formula consists of credited service, a plan multiplier, and your final average pay to come up with a lifetime base benefit. The final average pay is the average of your highest 36 consecutive months of pay over your entire state employment, whether it was covered by MOSHERS or whether it was covered by MPERS. So as an example, if we had credited service of 34 years and the multiplier for the 2011 tier is 1.7% or 0.017, and this person has a final average pay of $3,000, we will multiply all those components. The base benefit would be $1,734 per month. All the benefit amounts that we reference, it's always a monthly amount, because when you retire from us, we pay you once a month, the last working day of the month for that month. So the 2011 tier has the potential for an additional component called the temporary benefit. If this member retires directly from active service and retires under normal retirement guidelines prior to age 62, they will receive the temporary benefit in addition to the base benefit, but only until age 62. To calculate the temporary benefit, we use the same credited service and final average pay. However, we change the multiplier to 0.8% or 0.008. So in this example, the temporary benefit amount is $816. When you add the base benefit of $1,734 and the $816 temporary benefit together, the new base benefit will be $2,550. Now remember, the temporary benefit ends at age 62, so the benefit will appear as if it decreases at that time. In reality, the extra temporary benefit will stop and the lifetime benefit will continue. Some may look into drawing early reduced Social Security at 62, but Social Security eligibility is not directly related to the temporary benefit. So this employee is age 56 at retirement, began employment at age 22, and decided to make a career out of state government. They will be fortunate to receive that additional temporary benefit for about 6 years until they turn 62. Now, for the all-important question, when can I retire? Sometimes it may feel like you're swimming against the current, but retirement is closer than you think. The 2011 tier has a 5-year vesting requirement, which means that once you've worked in a benefit eligible position for at least 5 years, you're eligible to receive a future retirement benefit. Each of our plans has different age and service requirements that would make you eligible to retire. And the requirements can be different for our uniform patrol members and our non-uniform members. When looking at retirement eligibility requirements. There are two types of retirement: normal retirement and early retirement. For our uniform 2011 tier members, they will reach normal retirement eligibility when they reach age 55 with at least 5 years of service, or have mandatory retirement at age 60. Uniform 2011 tier members are not eligible for early retirement because early retirement age and service requirements for non-uniform members occurs after a uniform member would have been eligible for normal retirement. Confused yet? Well, let's take a look at age and service requirements for our non-uniform 2011 tier members. So non-uniform members includes MoDOT employees as well as civilian and patrol employees. For our non-uniform 2011 tier members, they can reach normal retirement eligibility at age 67 with at least 5 years of service, or when satisfying what we call the rule of 90. The rule of 90 is met when a member's service plus age equals 90. However, the minimum age to retire under the rule of 90 is age 55. Non-uniform 2011 tier members may be able to retire early if they have at least 5 years of service at age 62. But keep in mind, early retirement is sometimes referred to as a reduced retirement because it reduces your monthly benefit based on how many months prior to normal retirement you choose to retire. That reduction is 0.5% or 0.005 for each month that you retire before your normal retirement age. Remember that early retirement and the rule of 90 are only options if you retire directly from active employment. If you leave prior to retirement eligibility, then you're going to be eligible to retire at age 67, and that would be your only option. So if you'd like to review eligibility, you can do so on our website under Member Education, then Your Retirement Benefits, that section, then Retirement Eligibility. Here you can view the age and service requirements for the plan that you're in by switching between the tabs in each section as needed. Notice the different options for normal and early retirement, as well as non-uniformed and uniformed, and then the different plans that are available there as well. But knowing the eligibility requirements for the plan that you're retiring in is one thing, but what does that actually look like? When is your projected normal retirement date? How can you track your credited service so you know exactly how much time you have to prepare for retirement? Well, the best way to track your credited service and view your projected retirement date is to check out your MyMPERS Secure Member Access account. If you go to our website, MPERS.org, there's a green button in the top right corner that says My MPERS Login, and that will take you to the login screen for your online account. Once you log in, this is what your homepage may look like, or at least similar to looking like. There's a lot of valuable information on this page, such as the plan that you're in, your first retirement eligibility date, there's the plan, your retirement eligibility date, as well as your account balance and your service totals on that account summary page. The list down the left side of that screen shows everything that you can do as an active employee once you're signed into your MyMPERS account. You can run retirement estimates and also view your annual benefit statement that will probably be coming out within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So as an active employee, MPERS and your employer provide disability benefits through standard insurance company. Why do I bring this up in this section? Well, it could affect when you're eligible for retirement. Disability is meant to bridge the gap between when you are no longer able to work and when you're eligible to retire. For example, if you're just 2 years away from being eligible to retire, something terrible happens and you are no longer able to work, you could apply for disability. If you meet the eligibility requirements for disability and continue to be disabled, you could possibly stay on disability until you're eligible to retire. Once you're eligible to retire, you would be required to retire in most cases. So MPERS offers 3 types of disability. We have long-term disability that is for any illness, injury, or disease, and it may provide you with 60% of your pre-disability earnings. Work-related disability is for any accident or injury on the job and may provide somewhere between 70 and 90% of your pre-disability earnings, depending on deductible income. And then Workplace Possibilities is a program that's meant to help you stay at work. When you're on disability, you will not receive 100% of your pre-disability earnings. Workplace Possibilities will help assess and remedy what difficulties may be present so that you can stay at work and continue to earn your normal wage. For example, someone who has back trouble is being treated by a physician. Our disability provider can send someone to review your medical documentation and your workspace. They may look at your chair and determine that a better chair would help you with your back issues. At no cost to you or your employer, they will purchase a new chair in an effort to alleviate the back issues and keep the individual at work. This is a one-time deal per issue, and you cannot be eligible to retire to utilize the program. So while you're continuing through your career, just keep in mind that if you're no longer able to work because of a disability, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be eligible to collect a retirement benefit in the future. As long as you're vested, you'll be able to receive a benefit when you become eligible. If you have further questions about disability benefits, please visit the member education section of our website or contact a benefit counselor for your specific questions. So let's take a closer look at how a benefit can accumulate over the course of retirement. So let's look at how it increases or how it builds as you go through your years in retirement. Retirees are eligible to receive an annual cost of living adjustment or a COLA every year. The COLAs can vary from 0 to 5% each, and it's basically tied to inflation. So in this example, we have someone retiring under normal retirement eligibility at age 56, and they're retiring directly from active service. They'll receive that temporary benefit until age 62. And again, their final average pay is $3,000, and they have 34 years of service, following along that same example we started out with earlier. But we're going to assume that this individual will receive a 2% COLA every year. Now, keep in mind that the COLA amounts can vary from year to year because they're based on 80% of the change in the Consumer Price Index, the CPIU. The first year this member retired, their base benefit was calculated to be $1,734, and their temporary benefit was calculated to be $816. Since both the base benefit and the temporary benefit are eligible for cost of living adjustments, each year the amount the member receives may increase. This makes the total monthly benefit of $2,550 starting out. We also have the annual benefit column at the end of the slide, since a lot of times we think of our pay in annual amounts. So year 2, we see the base benefit increases to $1,768, and the temporary benefit increases to $832. In this example, each year, in each year, the benefit increases by 2%. Keep in mind that the 2% isn't a guaranteed COLA rate. It's an average COLA rate. Remember, the COLA can range from 0 to 5%. Now let's fast forward to year 7. The base benefit is about $19.52, and the temporary benefit is up to $918. Now you'll notice in year 8, the temporary benefit column is 0. There we go. This is because the temporary benefit ends at age 62. Since this member retired at age 56, they continue to receive the temporary benefit for 7 years until the month they turn 62. This is also where you'll want to remember that you could apply for early reduced Social Security help to help supplement the income. Or maybe you have contributions in deferred comp that you could access to supplement that income. If we take a closer look at the annual benefit column, you can see how the benefit builds from year to year because of the COLAs. When you reach 25 years in retirement, over the retiree's lifetime of receiving this benefit, they will have received over $739,000. Again, we used an estimated 2% COLA, and the actual COLA could be less or it could be more depending on inflation each year. But this shows you how the COLA can make a difference in the benefit that you'll receive each year in retirement. Keep in mind, this member contributed 4% employee contributions over the course of their 34 years of employment. This added up to about $50,000. We paid that out in benefits by the end of the 2nd year in retirement, and they continued to receive a monthly benefit for their lifetime. This is because the benefits they earn from MPERS is a defined benefit plan. Now back to the total lifetime benefit. Some of you may be thinking, wow, $739,000 is a lot. Others may be thinking $739,000, that's not much at all for 25 years in retirement. The important thing is to remember that this benefit is for your lifetime. In this example, this person retired at age 56. And we projected this out 25 years to age 81. We hope that you'll live even longer than that, and the total benefit paid will be even more than that. Anyway, you know your financial circumstances. Knowing this information early on will help you prepare for the future. If you're of the thought that this is not a huge pension benefit, then how can you get more? What adjustments can you make early on in your career that will help supplement your pension benefit from MPERS? So there are 2 possible ways in which you can get more when it comes to your MPERS benefit. Since your MPERS benefit is calculated using a benefit formula that's set by law, there's really only 2 ways in which you may be able to increase your future benefit. The 2 components of the benefit formula that you may have some influence over are your credited service and your final average pay. So how do you increase your credited service? This may include working longer. Although that may not be appealing, it may be an option. Working longer is pretty self-explanatory. The longer you work, the more credited service you have, the higher your retirement benefit will be. Another option you may have to help increase your credited service is to purchase or transfer previous service. And last is converting your unused sick leave to credited service at the time of retirement. So let's take a closer look. Once you're vested, you may be able to purchase prior service. A benefit of this is not only increasing your credited service, but it may also change your retirement eligibility. Members of the 2011 tier are not eligible to purchase prior active or reserve military service. If you have previous non-federal public sector employment, you may be able to purchase full-time non-federal public sector employment that was worked in the state of Missouri. This could be employment working for a city or county government, maybe a public school district, the University of Missouri retirement system, or some other special road districts may qualify also. Prior police service worked in the state of Missouri may also be eligible to be purchased as that non-federal public sector employment. The service we just discussed was service that may be able to be purchased. But what about service that may be able to be transferred? If you have previous state service with an agency covered by MPERS, MPERS covers retirement and for MoDOT and the Highway Patrol. MOSERS covers retirement for all other state agencies, including some colleges and universities. So if you have service covered there, you may be able to transfer it to MPERS and not lose any credit for that service. Just remember that the service must be worked in a benefit eligible position to be covered and eligible for a transfer. If you have previous vested service with any state agencies covered under loggers, which is the local area government employees retirement system, or PSRS peers, which is the public school retirement system, or the University of Missouri system, or the Kansas City employees retirement system, or the St. Louis City employees retirement system, you may be able to transfer that service to MPERS, assuming that service has not been forfeited with the other retirement system. If it has, then that service may be eligible for a purchase. Some service purchases are very costly, but the additional benefit that you may be able to add over the course of your lifetime because of the added credited service may be well worth the investment. Additionally, it is generally less expensive to make those purchases earlier in your career rather than later, but you have to be vested with us before you can do a purchase or transfer from anywhere other than MOSERS. So there are a lot of moving pieces when we're talking about this subject, and everyone's situation is just a little bit different. So if you have questions about a possible service purchase or a transfer, please contact our office. We can help you with finding out if your service may be eligible for purchase, and if so, how much will it cost and how will it impact your future benefit and retirement eligibility? So we covered how to increase credited service by working longer and using service purchases or transfers to boost your service. Now let's look at the last way to increase your credited service. Much like working longer, unused sick leave is pretty straightforward. When you retire, your unused sick leave can be used to boost your credited service totals. For every 168 hours of unused sick leave at retirement, 1 month of credited service will be added to your service. If you have 167 hours, you will not be eligible for 1 month of service. If you have 335 hours, you will not be credited with 2 months. Remember, sick leave is there for you to use if you need it. But if you tend to be on the healthier side and are accumulating quite a bit of leave, just know that when you retire, you could have quite a bit of service added to your total service credit and from your unused sick leave. Also remember that sick leave cannot be used to qualify you to retire sooner, but it will increase your benefit when you retire. And it is only credited in full monthly increments. So the second component of the benefit formula that you may be able to influence is an increase in final average pay. This could include increases in pay, it could include promotions, or maybe comp time or overtime payout you received while you were still working. The final average pay used in the benefit formula is the highest 36 consecutive months of salary. Sometimes this time frame may occur during the end of your career, but depending on any of these possible increases, such as comp time or overtime, it could shift your high 36 to a different period in your career. Pay increases and promotions will affect your high 36 months if they average out to be within your highest 36 months. But sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way. If you've been paid for any comp time or overtime, and maybe for a considerable amount of time right in a row, it could shift where your high 36 falls. So how will you know where your high 36 falls, or at least have an idea of where it may fall? I want to direct you back to your MyMPERS Secure Member Access account. One of the tools available to you is Estimate a Benefit. You can run a benefit estimate based on your first eligible retirement date, or maybe you have a specific date in mind you want to retire, or maybe you're thinking about leaving state government and want to look at some retirement. Or maybe you even want to look at an early retirement option that some of you may be eligible for. You will also be able to enter in a spouse date of birth if you're married to be used to generate extra survivor options on your estimate. When you're looking at your printed estimate, you will see down here in the bottom right corner the time frame that we use to come up with that high 36 for your particular estimate. You will also want to remember that when you project an estimate into the future, we will also project your current base salary into the future. We do not assume any pay increases, so any increases that you do receive down the road will only make that benefit go higher. I also want to remind you that when you do get a pay increase as you go through your career, we load salary information, service and salary information twice a month, around the 10th and the 25th. And it doesn't happen until you're getting paid for that new service or that new salary. So if anybody received an increase in February this month, February 1st, you're just now going to be able to run an estimate that will show that newer salary. Okay. So keep that in mind when you're running estimates. So as I mentioned earlier, there are three main pieces to your retirement income puzzle. Your MPERS benefit, which we discussed in this presentation, personal savings, which can be through Deferred comp, and Deferred comp will be the next speaker in the webinar. So we primarily focused on the MPERS benefit. The final piece is your Social Security benefit. We won't go into great detail about your future benefit. However, if you would like to get an estimate of what your future Social Security benefit may be, you can do so by creating a MySSA account through ssa.gov. That's Social Security's official website. Once you've created an account, you can get an overview of your account, review your annual statements that they used to mail us. You can run a benefit estimate based on your retirement age with them. This may be helpful if you're considering your options for when that temporary benefit ends at age 62. Will your Social Security benefit at age 62 fill that gap when that temporary benefit stops? What is the difference between your early and full Social Security age and the benefit amounts? You can set up your account at any time to keep up with your retirement planning for that piece of the puzzle as well. Phew, okay. Well, we finished up with the MPERS portion of the presentation. So let's check in with Julie to see if we have any questions that she wants to share with the group. Julie?
Thank you, Mary. We just had a couple of questions and they were pretty general. One was about assigning a beneficiary to the employee contributions. And that form, we don't have the ability to do that online through your MyMPERS. And so you would have to complete a paper form, but you can always complete the form, scan it, and email it to us using the secure document upload that is on our homepage. You don't have to sign in to get to it. Or you can fax it to us or mail it to us. Or if you're local, you can drop it by the office. Any of those methods of getting it back to us work. The other question I had was, why does the plan not allow for military service purchase or active or reserve military? So as for why that was passed, I'm not sure, but I know that military service was no longer an option for 2011 tier members once that statute was changed and the 2011 tier was implemented. So Mary, I don't know if you have any input into as that was why that was changed, other than it was just part of the 2011 tier plan when it was implemented.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add on that. I don't know why it was not included either. But to elaborate a little bit, everything that we do, all the plans that we administer and the details about how those plans work, what we do, all of that is set out in state statutes, as Julie mentioned, the statutes. So when that law was passed, it was not included as an option in the 2011 tier. Now, not to say things can't change in the future, because it's all up to those statutes changing, but that's how that plan has worked since it was implemented in 2011, and that's how it continues today.
Yep. Well, that's all the questions I had.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie, for joining us this afternoon and answering those questions and helping us out. Thank you for everyone else for having an interest in your future retirement benefit earlier in your career. If you do have questions after this presentation's over, which I hope you do, please contact us. Here's all of our contact information on the screen, but don't leave us yet because we're not all the way finished yet. Our contact information, our mailing address there. We do have an office located here in Jefferson City. There is our phone number. We do have a fax number, our website, an email address. If you want to email us, the best way to get a hold of us is using that benefits@mpers.org. It's benefits with an S. That goes to that benefits group that I introduced you to at the very beginning. So we monitor that email address and can respond to any questions that you may have. We are also on social media there if you want to look out for us there. So that does take care of my presentation, but we want to give you, we've got some more information to share with you from the deferred comp. So let's take a break. Let's do about a 5-minute break. We're doing pretty good on time. Right now I've got about 1:40. Well, it's going to turn over 1:49. So let's come back at 1:55. That's a little over a 5-minute break, but in about 5 minutes, my screen's we're going to switch over to the next presenter, but come back at 1:55. Okay, Jesse, I'm going to switch this presenter over to you.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's give them just another.
Yeah. Give
Another.
another minute or two.
Yep. All right. Well, I've got 155. Hopefully everybody is back. So let's go ahead and continue on with our presentations today. To continue on with that retirement puzzle and fitting everything in and figuring out everything on what you're going to have available to you when you retire, we have Jesse Stewart joining us from the Deferred Comp Plan to talk about your options and all your financial stuff through that. So Jesse, I will let you take it from here.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. And like Mary said, I'm Jesse Stewart, and I'm a financial education professional for the Deferred Compensation Plan here at the state. That basically means I'm a resource for you. Anytime you have any questions about deferred comp, feel free to reach out to me either through email. You can call me, and that does forward to my cell phone number, my contact information, or you can set up web appointments, things like that. So I will be very flexible when it comes to trying to get a hold of me. But sometimes I am out there in the field talking to people, giving presentations. So it may be a day or so before I get back to you. Before I go too much further, let's look over to the control panel. There's a couple handouts. The mid-career presentation, that's just a copy of this presentation. I think it's a good idea for you to download that to your computer. That way you don't have to worry about taking too many notes. This is one of our more intensive presentations. There's a lot of material on this presentation. So we're going to try to go pretty fast so I can hopefully get through most of it, if not all of it today. And at the end of it, this retirement income worksheet, so we can kind of make things specific to you. All right, and Mary kind of hit on this earlier, but for most state employees, you have three primary sources of income. You have your pension, what Mary talked about in detail, Social Security, and personal savings. For most people, that pension and Social Security's not quite enough to maintain your lifestyle in retirement. That's where personal savings comes into play. That's where deferred comp comes into play. We'll talk a little more about some of this later. So deferred comp, we've been around for about 50 years. You do not have to participate in deferred comp. It is voluntary. But over 85% of state employees have chosen to participate with deferred comp. They see the importance of saving for retirement. If you've been hired in the last 12 or 13 years or so, you're going to automatically be signed up at 1% pre-tax. You can contribute either flat dollar or percent of pay. We kind of like percent of pay a little bit better because every time you get a raise, your retirement's going to get a little bit of a raise as well. You have the option of contributing pre-tax or Roth. You can either pay your taxes today or pay your taxes in retirement. One thing that's really nice about our plan, it's a 457 plan. And that means if you were to leave your job for any reason, as soon as we know you've left your job, you have access to the 457 portion of your money without paying a penalty. That's pretty rare in retirement accounts. Most retirement accounts, you have to wait until your retirement age or pay a 10% penalty. The state match money, maybe some rollovers and things, maybe that may not be true with, but it does not matter. You can be 25 years old. If you leave your job, you can get to this money. You buy a new car, pay down your mortgage, whatever you need, pay your bills without having to pay a 10% penalty. So that's really awesome. And here's a big thing why I think our contribution, the number of participants have been going up quite a bit over the last couple of years. The state right now is matching $75 a month, anywhere between $25 and $75 a month. So that means if you are contributing more than $75 a month, the state will give you $900 a year right now. So if you like free money and you're not participating with deferred comp, you want to make sure you're at least contributing $75 a month. If you get paid once a month, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you get paid twice a month, $37.50 per paycheck is the amount you'd want to have go into your deferred comp account. So pre-tax versus Roth. Let's say you make $50,000 a year and you contribute $5,000 to deferred comp. If you do that on a pre-tax basis, you're only going to have to pay taxes on $45,000 of income this year. But when you take money out in retirement, you're going to pay taxes on that money you take out in the year you take it out, just like you earned it in that year. Roth's the exact opposite. You're going to pay taxes on that full $50,000 before it goes into deferred comp. But when you reach retirement, and that means you have to be at least 59 and a half, and your account has to have been open for at least 5 years, you won't have to pay any taxes on the growth. You've already paid your taxes, so that's huge. People always ask me, which is better, pre-tax or Roth? And that's a tough question to answer because everyone's situation's different, and we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how the market's going to perform going forward. We don't know what the tax brackets are going to look like in the future. Generally speaking, the more time you have, the more likely Roth's going to be better for you because you have time for that growth to happen. The growth portion is the part you won't have to pay taxes on. If you think you're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, that could lean towards pre-tax. If you think you're going to be in a higher tax bracket, that can lean towards Roth. It's not common, but it does happen. A lot of people, the majority of people end up being in the same tax bracket, but some people end up being a lower tax bracket. That's fairly common. A little less common is people end up in a higher tax bracket, which would lean towards Roth. Some people think it's easier to budget and just get it out of their way if they pay Roth, if they do Roth. But time, the longer you have, the more likely Roth's going to be better for you because more of it's going to be growth. The more likely, the bigger percentage of your balance is going to be growth when you start to take that out. That means you could be young today, or that means you're not going to touch that portion anyway of deferred comp until maybe the twilight of your life. It does not matter whether you contribute pre-tax or Roth or even a combination of the two, the state will still match you. And that match goes into a different account. It goes into the 401 account. You have 2 accounts with the state of Missouri. There can be penalties to get to that 401 money if you leave state service before you reach retirement age. The state will not pay your taxes for you, so that will be pre-tax money. You'll either have to do a conversion once you retire or leave the state, or which means a conversion is a simple way of saying I'm going to switch pre-tax money to Roth money. And if you do that, you have to pay the taxes on the amount you convert in that year you convert it, or you'll pay taxes when you take it out and withdraw it in retirement. When you make a withdrawal in retirement, pre-tax money, the government, the IRS requires us to withhold 20%. That does not mean you'll pay 20% taxes. When you do your taxes the following year, you'll either get some more money back or have to pay some additional funds depending on your tax bracket. There are maximums on the amount you can contribute to deferred comp. They are quite generous. You have to be in a pretty good financial situation to be able to get close to worrying about these maximums. Get a lot of eye rolls when I show people maximums are a little like, I'll never be able to get to that amount, and I understand that quite well myself. But there are people who can, Maybe you came into some money. I get that question every once in a while. I got this inheritance. Can we write a check to deferred comp and put that money into deferred comp? The answer to that question, unfortunately, is no. There are only two ways you can contribute to deferred comp, and that's through payroll deduction, and that's rolling money over from another retirement account. But you can live off that new money you came into and then go up to these annual maximums. And these are annual maximums. It doesn't matter if it comes out from one paycheck or 24 paychecks. This is just the annual maximum you can put in to deferred comp. This 60 to 63 is new this year. So if you are interested in that, you might want to contact us. There's a couple of little interesting things for that. So actually, if you turn 60 this year and you're 59 now, you're good. But if you turn 64 this year, you would not be eligible to do this additional catch-up. You'd still be eligible to do this amount, but not this additional amount here. If you know you're in your last 3 years until you're going to retire, or until you at least reach normal retirement eligibility, you can fill out some paperwork and contribute up to $47,000 per year. There's some paperwork required. Contact us and we'll see if you're eligible. Percent of pay versus flat dollar. This person's going to contribute $150 a month starting off. In the green, they just started off with 6%. Based on their salary, that would still be $150 at the beginning. They're going to assume a 6% annual rate of return. And you can see over a number of years, percent of pay can make a big difference. This is a very good tool, our automatic increase tool. You can set it up where once a year, the amount you put towards deferred comp will go up without you having to remember it to go in and do that every year. A lot of people get cost of living adjustments or raises in July or whatever month you get that. That would be a good time to increase how much money you're putting towards deferred comp. And maybe your raise is bigger than the amount you bump up or larger than the amount you bump up your deferred comp. So it's not quite as painful that way. Your take home might actually go up if you coincide your raises with your deferred comp increases into your contribution. I think anytime you have a financial windfall, it's a good idea to put a little bit of that money towards deferred comp. So maybe you pay off a house, maybe pay off your mortgage, maybe your kids are no longer in daycare, they're going to public school, your expenses go down. If you can put a little bit more money towards deferred comp, it'll pay off in the long run. As you can see, depending on your salary, 30, 40, and 50,000, you can see if you have a stay at the 1% is the blue. If you have a 0.5% auto increase every year for 25 years, it can make a big, big difference on how much you have in your account. All right, let's see if I have a question, if it's me or the past one. I think those showed there's a question, but I think those were still some of the last ones. Feel free if you have any questions to type them. I'll try to do my best to answer those, but do keep those general in nature because we are a little bit limited on time today. So I mentioned rollover a couple slides back. So rollover, that's a fancy way of saying I'm going to move my retirement money from one retirement account to another retirement account. When it comes to rolling money into deferred comp, if it comes from a previous employer, if it's a 401, a 403, another 457, it does not matter if it's a pre-tax or a Roth account, we can accept all of that money. IRA, and IRA stands for individual retirement account. The government set up the rules primarily for people who don't have employer sponsored plans, but you are eligible if you want to. You can contribute to deferred comp and an IRA at a bank or investment firm, and you can actually max both plans out if you want to. But when it's talking about you can roll IRA money into deferred comp if it is pre-tax, sometimes called standard or traditional. But for some reason, the government will not allow us to accept Roth IRA money. So recap, if it's coming from a previous employer, it can be Roth or pre-tax. If it's coming from an IRA, we can only accept pre-tax. All right, some reasons people like rolling money into deferred comp. It's simpler to have all your money in the same place, less to keep track of. Our fees are very, very low. We'll get into that in a little bit. We win awards, our fees are so low. You have 24/7 online access. If you want to roll money over, once you're logged into your account, go to the blue column on the top left and go to find that Move Your Money tab. Most people are going to reach out to me or another financial education professional. We'd be glad to help you out with this process. And then eventually, you're going to have to contact wherever your money is today. All right, so there's going to be paperwork on both ends. I have seen it in the past where some of these people drag their feet because you're not doing them any favors by rolling your money out. So if something hasn't happened after a few weeks, you may want to contact them and make sure they are getting that done like you want them to. All right, you're putting money towards deferred comp. Where can you put that money? What are your investment options? Most people choose our target date funds. Most people want to save, but they don't want to think about it much more than that. So they just go to the default target date fund. If you don't choose one, the state puts you in the one closest to your 65th birthday. Each of these pie graphs represents a different target date. The green represents stock, the red represents bonds, the blue represents our diversifiers, so things like commodities, real estate, things like that. So on average, over the last few decades, the return on stocks have been more than double what the return on bonds have been. But the return on bonds are more it's more predictable. So the closer you are to needing your money, most people want to have a little more predictability with their return and where they're invested. And that's why over time, these will get more conservative. So we had a 2010 fund that rolled into the Missouri retirement allocation. The 27 just popped up this year. But in, another 45 years, the 2070 fund will look like the 2015 fund, or not 55 years. Wow, my math was off there. Another 55 years, the 2070 fund will look like the 2015 fund does today. This has nothing to do with how long you have to wait to get to your money. This is how your money is divided up, how it's allocated. You can be in retirement and be in our 2070 fund. You can be 20 years old and be our Missouri retirement allocation. You can choose any of these funds. We have the Missouri stable income. The goal of that is to protect money you already have. You're not going to get a ton of growth, but it will protect money you already have. It's almost like putting your money in a savings account. Right now, it is paying a 2.59% rate of return on money you have invested in stable income. That rate will change every quarter. So the next time that will change will be April 1st. So the target date funds, that's kind of like the cruise control, the people who don't want a lot of choice, that don't have to make a lot of decisions. If you're someone that's hands-on when it comes to investing and you want options, the brokerage account may be right for you. That is not the majority of people out there. Actually, very few people choose the brokerage account because it is a little overwhelming for most people. You can choose individual stocks, CDs, bonds, U.S. Treasuries. There's 13,000 mutual funds and exchange traded funds to choose from. You have lots of choice. It is under the umbrella of our plan, but I wouldn't even know what you are invested in. I would just know how much money it is through Charles Schwab you have over there with Schwab. So you are kind of on your own. So you probably need to have at least a little more than a basic knowledge on how markets work in order for that to make sense for you Another maybe case would be maybe you have an investment you're comfortable with, you've used in the past, you want to get to that same investment. You're probably going to be able to get to that with the brokerage account. All right. Our plan has some of the lowest fees in the country. Our total average fees right now, 0.24%. And we charge you $1 a month plus a little bit based on what you're invested in. And that's way less than the average government plan's more than double ours, and the average 401k plan here, and this is updated. And so the 401k plans costs have been coming down. So that is good news for the savers, but it's still more than triple what our fees are. Fees are something to think about when you're trying to decide where to put your money. Why does that matter? Well, over a period of time. So we have some low expense, like 0.24. The green, that represents that 0.85. And there are some places out there where you're going to pay 1.25. I've seen as high as 2% before annual fees on whatever money you have invested there. So over a 25-year time frame, you started off with $10,000, you put $75 a paycheck in, you get paid twice a month, and you have an annualized rate of return of 6%. Under our fee structure, you'd have over $200,000. Under that higher fee structure, you'd have about $40,000 less money in retirement. And that can be a big deal. It's almost a bigger deal on the spend down side of things. Let's say you're paying 1% more in fees. That's $2,000 a year. That's less money you're going to be able to take out every year, or your money's not going to last as long in retirement. So both those things can be big issues for the average state worker out there. All right, once you leave your job, withdrawals are easy and flexible. It's pretty simple. You can leave your funds with deferred comp. You don't have to do anything. You still have access to me in retirement. You can still change what you're invested in if you want to in retirement. You can choose to take all your money with a one lump sum. But if you do that and you contribute it pre-tax, you're going to have to pay taxes on that entire amount in that year you take it out. So if it's a large amount of money, it could possibly bump you up into a higher tax bracket, and definitely your tax bill is going to be a little bit higher that year. You can set it up where so much money goes into your bank account over different time periods. Monthly is probably the most common, but there are other time periods you can choose. Or you can just leave it in there, and when you want some money, give us a call, go online, ask for that money, and we'll send that to you. And you can do that in combination with those installment plans if you would like. Once you reach certain ages, and right now that age is 73, any pre-tax money you have, the government's going to require you to take what required minimum distributions, RMDs. And the whole purpose for those is the government wants you to have to start paying taxes. If you have Roth money, the government doesn't care because you're not going to owe any additional taxes, so you can keep those in deferred comp as long as you would like. But eventually, on pre-tax money, you're going to have to start taking some distributions. All right, that's kind of the first and probably the longest section today. We have a few sections today. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Social Security. Social Security is basically a federal pension for almost all workers in the United States. There are examples, or a few exceptions. If you're used to be a teacher in the state of Missouri, teachers have the PSRS system, and they do not pay into Social Security while they're paying into that PSRS. But it's like 98% of workers pay into Social Security. It's a lot. Their formula is much more complicated than that formula about the pension Mary talked about earlier today. Normal retirement eligibility can vary depending on when you were born. But if you were born after 1960, like most of us, normal retirement eligibility is 67. You can start taking, most people can start taking Social Security as early as 62. But if you take it at 62, you're going to get a 30% reduction for the rest of your life if your normal retirement eligibility is 67. It's not just until you reach 67, that is for the rest of your life. Like I said, the formula is quite complicated. It goes off your 35 highest years of paying into Social Security. If you didn't pay into Social Security for 35 years, they're going to plug in zeros. Social Security replaces a higher percentage of lower income people's salaries than higher income people's salaries. Higher earners are going to take home more dollars from Social Security, but it's not going to be as high a percentage of their pre-retirement income. So when to take Social Security can be a very, very big decision. And Social Security will actually continue to increase past normal retirement eligibility all the way up until you reach the age of 70. So delaying retirement by 1 or 2 years can make a big difference. Like Mary talked about earlier, every month you work longer, your pension's going to get better. Every month you delay taking Social Security up to 70, your Social Security is going to get better. I know a lot of people out there have talked, and there's horror stories. I don't believe Social Security is going to be around, things like that. Me personally, I think Social Security is going to be around in the future, but I do think it could be possible that it will look different than it does today. They are telling us in about 10 years, if they don't do anything, there's probably going to be a reduction of somewhere around 20% on your benefit. If there's not a reduction, they would have to raise taxes somewhere or maybe push out these retirement ages. But it's going to have to change somehow, or maybe they're going to have to get a little more aggressive with their investments because they are in very, very safe investments. Maybe they decide, hey, we want to take a little more risk with this in order to pay everyone what we promised them we're going to pay. But they're going to have to do something. One of the main reasons our demographics of our country are changing. There are more and more people drawing Social Security because there are more and more people that are in retirement or are retirement age. This is going to talk about averages. And I talked on the last slide why I emphasize the word averages, because not everyone's going to get the same thing. It's a very complicated formula. So this is your age. This is what an average person today would get from Social Security. And this is kind of, if they do have that 20% reduction in about 10 years, what an average person would get if they just reduce benefits and don't raise taxes. More than likely, somewhere between these two numbers is going to be what they actually do. But I'm just trying to predict what lawmakers will do with that statement. We really don't know what the lawmakers are going to do in the future. They're probably going to wait until the last minute because they're either going to have to raise taxes on people or they're going to have to reduce benefits. Both of those things will upset voters. So it'll probably be the last minute before anything gets done with our Social Security. As you can see, there's a big difference between retiring at 62 and 67, the percentage of your income that you would take home. Mary mentioned ssa.gov. Before you ever do retire, make sure you contact Social Security and get your specific numbers. And here's a checklist we have on our website. So just kind of talks about some of those things. I think it's good to look at this. Maybe look at this before you call Social Security so you can know the right questions to ask them when you actually do get to contact them. It does take a few weeks. I've heard 6 to 8 weeks to actually talk to the person you need to. So if you're planning on retiring anytime soon, then you want to try to contact them or just plan ahead. I know most of you are mid-career, but maybe some of you out there are getting close to retirement. Contact Social Security as soon as you can to try to figure out what Social Security is going to provide for you in the future. One thing to think about, are you married or divorced? If you've worked 10 years, or if you were married for 10 years or longer, sometimes you can draw off a spouse. So you'd have to contact Social Security to see if that would be right for you. If you're going to continue to work past your retirement, there are limits on the amount you can work if you have not reached normal retirement eligibility before you have to start paying back some of that Social Security benefit you're collecting. All right, so that's Social Security. Let me see, does anyone have any questions? I'm kind of going pretty fast. I think I'm doing okay on time, so I can kind of slow down a little bit. This is a very long presentation today. So watch what you spend. This is the budgeting side of things, and I've kind of already hit on that a little bit, but it's pretty important. So before you do retire, you need to do a budget. So think about all your sources of income, your pension, Social Security, deferred comp, any other sources of income, maybe rental income, maybe farm income, any other sources of income. And make sure you're looking at your net pay after you pay taxes and not your gross pay. All right, and then come up with a list of all your expenses. And this is a very simple budget. I'm kind of a simple person. I like keeping things pretty simple. All right, but your mortgage, your rent, your utility, be sure to include yearly expenses. Maybe your mortgage is paid off, but you still have that homeowner's insurance. And they've gone up quite a bit over the last couple of years. Homeowners insurance has gotten quite expensive the last couple of years. So look at annual expenses as well. Be sure before you retire, you look into healthcare costs. Healthcare costs are probably going to be more for you in retirement than they were while you're working for two major reasons. Number one, you're probably going to be responsible for a higher percentage of your healthcare premiums. Number two, the older you get, the more likely you're going to have health problems, the more likely you're going to need to see doctors on a regular basis. And that means you're going to have more co-pays. So that's a big, big deal. So add up all your expenses. Hopefully your take home is going to be more than your expenses. Me personally, I like to have savings as a line on my expenses because it's not if, it's when an unexpected expense is going to happen. You know, car's going to break down. Your HVAC system is going to need to be replaced. Your roof's going to need to be replaced. So it's a good idea to have a little bit of a buffer, a little bit extra that you can put away towards savings. So one of those unexpected expenses happen, you have some emergency funds. And maybe if you're lucky enough, you can do some fun things with some of that extra money too. There's a little bit of entertainment, but I don't know about you, $50 a month, that might get you to go out to eat once. I need more than $50 a month for entertainment. There's a lot of resources out there if you're not a paper and pencil person. Account aggregation, that's a great tool. You can go out there and use that. We actually have a spreadsheet that you can use if you're someone that doesn't want it saved online. You're afraid someone's going to hack your username and password or something like that. We have a spreadsheet that you can use on your computer only. There's Good Budgeter. There's lots and lots of information out there, lots and lots of apps out there to help you if you want to budget. Some of them may be free. Some of them there's a cost associated with. Are free. So this account aggregation one is a free resource to you if you're interested in using that. These are just some more options you have out there. Every Dollar, Rocket Money, Acorns. This presentation is similar to the Pocket Change. We've kind of adapted it to fit this mid-career. But if you go to the mopocketchange.org, a website that has a lot of good information on it, that's where you would find that spreadsheet we were talking about. That's where you would find a lot of resources to help you out with some of this stuff. I recommend that everyone maybe later today go to that website and just see what those resources are. Because if you wait, it's probably not going to happen. I know that's the way if I have to do something, I have to do it now, or it doesn't end up happening. All right, now we're going to talk a little more about investing. We talked about your options when we were talking about deferred comp. All right, but investing doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to overthink it. Kind of the pillar of most people, I think the base, if you're going to build a house, the foundation, that's the most important thing. If you don't have a strong foundation, it doesn't matter what your finishes are, because eventually your house is going to run into some major problems. Okay, so that emergency fund, to me, that is the foundation of financial health. So like I said earlier, it's not if, it's when unexpected expenses are going to happen. That's whether you're retired or while you're still working. You need to have some money somewhere just in case something unexpected happens, to cover car repairs, home repairs, medical costs, unexpected leave, or maybe you lose your job for some reason. All right, so you need an emergency fund out there. It's a good idea to have an account that's not associated with the account where you pay your bills, where you at least have to click on a button to move that money from account to account. Make it hard to get to, and put some money there, maybe every month, maybe every time you get paid, put a little bit. Maybe it's $50, maybe it's $100. Come up with an amount, and over time that will grow. Don't be discouraged if it's small. When we do polls, about 70% of people don't even have emergency funds. So you're not in the minority if you're not that person, but it might be a good idea to start correcting and come up with an action plan to make those corrections. All right, now that's short term, and that's kind of the financial health. And I didn't even mention one other thing that may be even more important than that, is high interest debt. If you have any high interest debt, you may even want to get rid of that before you start with too much of an emergency fund. And that's one of the reasons it's important to have an emergency fund, is you don't want to have to take out a high interest loan or put a lot of money on a credit card that has 20–25% interest. So it's a good idea to have that emergency fund. Long-term savings. So these are things like saving for retirement or saving for your kids' education. Some people may need to save to put a down payment for a house. This says vacation home. I don't know a lot of people that have vacation homes. That maybe those aren't the people I'm hanging out with, but maybe you're lucky enough to have a vacation home, or maybe you need to save. Maybe you want to upgrade on the home you're already living in, or maybe you don't. You're renting now. So those are good long-term reasons to save. I love this slide. Compounded interest, the magic of compounded interest. So everyone's going to save until 65. The difference between starting at 25 versus 35 versus 45 versus 55 is huge. You're going to save $100 a month, and we're going to say you're going to average a 6% rate of return, annualized rate of return, which is pretty conservative. So these numbers could even be a bit larger. The blue represents how much money comes directly from your paycheck. The green represents the growth. So the sooner you start, the more money you're going to have. Yeah, that's common sense, but look at how much more. If you just start 10 years sooner, you're going to have about double the money than if you're saving until 65, you start at 25, you're going to have about double the money than if you started at 35. The longer you wait, the bigger percentage is going to have to come from your paycheck, and the less of the money is going to become directly from growth. Here, you only have 10 years to save. Not a whole lot's going to be growth. That's not a reason just to say it's not worth saving at all. The more money you have, in savings, the more flexibility you're going to have later in life. The sooner you start saving, the more time you have. Time is your friend when it comes to investing. So it's the more time you have. If we're looking back, if you get the same rate of return on average, the larger your account's going to be, the more growth you're going to have. All right, why invest in stocks or in the market? So if you put $100 a month away for 25 years and you stuck it in a fireproof safe or under your mattress, you'd have $30,000. Now think about that. 25 years ago, what would $30,000 buy you? And compare that to what $30,000 would buy you today. So once again, I'm the bearer of bad news. There is no way to eliminate market or to eliminate risk when it comes to money, because that same $30,000 won't buy near as much today as it would have 25 years ago. That's called inflation risk. So there's always going to be risk no matter what you do with your money. This $30,000 may not go down, but what you can buy with that $30,000 more than likely is going to go down over time. Let's say you average 2% rate of return, so you had a CD over the last 25 years, you'd have just shy of $39,000. If you got 6% rate of return, you would have more than double the amount of money you put in, and you'd have over $67,000. The higher this rate of return is, the better this number is going to look. All right, so you could do what we call dollar cost averaging, which is what you're doing when you put into deferred comp. Maybe you choose a target date fund, let's say the 2050 target date fund, because it's somewhere in the middle. Every time you get paid, you're going to put $100 towards that 2050. Hopefully you can average a 6% rate of return, or maybe even a little better than that over 25 years. All right, now we're going to start to try to put it all together. And once again, I'm going to pause just a second to see if anyone has any questions. I know this is a lot of information. You're kind of drinking from a fire hose today. All right, so kind of putting things together. So the gold represents what the pension is going to provide for you based on the number of years you've worked. And Mary kind of talked about that earlier today. The green represents what an average person is going to get from Social Security if they start taking Social Security at 62. And the blue is going to represent how much you would have to have from personal savings to get to 100% of your pre-retirement income. Not everyone needs 100%. If you're putting 10% towards deferred comp today, then if you got around 85 to 90% in retirement, then that would be all right. You're paying 4% towards the pension because you're the 2011 plan. You're paying Social Security taxes. So between what you're paying towards the pension and Social Security, you would probably need to get around 90%. And if you're subtract the amount that you're getting from, or that you're putting towards deferred comp, and that would tell you approximately what these percentages need to be to make your take home similar to what it is today. That's what most people's goals are. They want to maintain their lifestyle in retirement. Now, if you know you have a lot of elaborate trips planned for retirement, you have some expensive hobbies, you may need to have a higher percentage of your income than 100% replaced in retirement. And maybe you're lucky enough that you have a big income today, or you know you're going to have everything paid off and you're not going to have a lot of expenses in retirement. You don't plan on traveling, then you maybe not need quite as much, but everyone's situation's a little bit different. All right, now it's time to grab your worksheet or you open it up. I'm going to give everyone a minute while they do that. I'm going to get my copy out real fast. Now we're going to start talking about, and I'm sure Mary talked about this earlier, what's your pension going to replace? So real fast, you probably already talked about this, but add your age plus your years of service. So if you're 30 and you have 20 years of service, well, you wouldn't be in the 27. So you're 30 and let's say you have 10 years of service, that'd be 40. Subtract that from 90 because you are 90 and out, like Mary said. That number is 50. Take half of that number and that will give you approximately how many years it will take before you're eligible to retire under 90 and out. This person would be 65. Like Mary said earlier, if you are vested and you are 67, that would come before. It's whichever one happens first, 90 and out or 67 with 5 years of service. And it's even different if you're a uniform person out there. So you can retire as early as 55. So your math's going to be different. All right. Now add that number to the number of years you already have. So 25 plus 10, 35. This example that I gave, this person would have 35 years of service, and then multiply that times that 0.17%. This example here, this person is going to have 26 years in. So 26 times 1.7 is a little over 44%. Social Security, this person is going to say they're going to have about 30%. Let me go back a few slides when we're talking about Social Security. Right here. All right, so look at your age when you're planning on retiring. Look at the percentage. You can either use today's numbers or be on the safe side and use future numbers or maybe somewhere in between. So this example, if you're going to have 26 years of service at retirement, 44%. This person is going to have 30% of their income replaced by Social Security. That's 74%. That only leaves them a 20%, 6% gap. This person is probably going to do better than the average American out there today. On your worksheet, towards the bottom right, there's a chart that's going to also show you what I just went back to in the slideshow. It's going to show you those exact same numbers. So if I move too fast, look at that chart to try to guess how much you're going to get from Social Security. And I got a question or something going on here. Oh, my question box is gone. Mary says there's a question, but I can't see it on my side.
Hey, Jesse, I think it's a question you can cover at the end.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I'll copy it and paste it in the chat box for you though.
Awesome, I appreciate that. All right, and now we're going to try to come up with a plan with deferred comp. So if you know, and some of this you may have to go back and do later. Time restraints today, it's going to take a little bit of time, but put your account balance in, what your gross annual salary is, what your current contribution is. if you have an auto increase. How many years it's going to be until you're going to plan on retiring? And you might want to do two of these. You might want to do one when you're first eligible, and then maybe do a second one when you actually think you will retire. Maybe that's the same day. I know a lot of people are going to retire the exact minute they are eligible to. But just because you're eligible to retire with that pension does not mean you're financially able and ready to retire. How long do you think you're going to live? If you retire at 65, this person's going to get them to about 90. And I have read some things that say if you're alive at 65, you have almost a 50% chance to live to 90. So me personally, unless I knew something really specific about my health, I would at least want to factor living until 90 or later. All right, and then this is going to show your rate of return, ending account balance, and this is your income replacement. And these slides are a little bit out of order, in my opinion, so I'm going to move on a little bit. Once again, your income gap's 26%. Move forward. So how we find out what your ending balance is going to be, let's use your your retirement savings calculator. Plug in all those numbers. Years to retirement, years in retirement. Have an average rate of return. We start off with 6%. If you're a more conservative investments, it needs to be lower than that. Maybe if you're an aggressive investment, you might be able to do better than that over long periods of time. So this example, this person's going to has 17 years to save. They're putting 19% of their pay towards retirement. That's going to get them about $250,000, which is going to get that 26% of their income that they need to get to 100%. If this person only decided they only needed 90%, then they would want to look for a number around 15, 16% when they plug in their numbers here. And this is on our website, modeferredcomp.org, planning and tools, go to view calculator. And I think it's actually because our website just changed, you would want to go to resources and then drop down to calculators. All right, I like this table over here if you're going to be using an annual automatic increase. Because yes, when you show bumping it up 2% every year, it's going to show you having a nice balance, but eventually you're going to be putting 37% on this example of your pay towards retirement. That may not be practical. So you may have to adjust this plan. Maybe you have to work a couple years longer. Maybe instead of going 2%, you know, you're going to have to start off, instead of starting off with 5%, you're going to have to start off contributing 10%. But it's the same thing, but we just added this 2% automatic increase, going to get us roughly the same balance over the 17-year time period. So this is a fun tool to play with to try to come up with a plan. A lot of people contact me or another financial education professional with help filling this out. So we go back to our worksheet, plug in this number. All right, so we have a couple different options. Option one, you're going to put 19% of your pay towards deferred comp. Option two, you're going to start off with 8.5% of your pay and have a 1.5% auto increase every year. Option three, you start off with 5 times and have a 2% auto increase every year. I would just caution you with this last option, it's going to get to be quite a bit of your paycheck towards the end of your career. And that would get you to that 100% income replacement in retirement. Like I talked about earlier, not everyone needs 100%, but most people are going to need at least 85% to maintain your lifestyle. All right, and then you want to contact us or go into Deferred Comp and make any changes to make sure you're going to be where you need to be in retirement. It's pretty simple to make a change. If you go to Deferred Comp, log in. You can also go to the ESS portal, top right, hover over benefit links, click on the benefit links that pops up. The 5th line down will get you into deferred comp. So you go to the drop down, select change contributions, and enter your new amounts. I have a flyer. You can find that on our website, or you can email me and I can send you those instructions. They're in a PDF format. I mentioned earlier, this has got a lot of the same information that Pocket Change, but there is some additional information in Pocket Change. So you might want to sign up for one of our Pocket Change webinars. I do believe next month I will be the one giving the Pocket Change webinars. There's 10 different webinars and we rotate every month. There's 6 of us in the state, which ones we conduct. But if you're interested in that, contact me or go to modeferredcomp.org and go to the events tab to register for that. So there's lots and lots of good information. I would definitely check out that Pocket Change website that was listed earlier on the slideshow. There's lots of good tools and resources to help you out with your financial planning. All right, something to think about in the next year or so. Planning is the end of this year that we're supposed to switch over from Mission Square to Voya. Why are we? What is a record keeper? A record keeper, they do the bookkeeping. They, how much of your money's pre-tax, how much of your money's Roth, how much you've contributed. Make sure you didn't go over any limits. So we currently are using Mission Square. That is going to change to Voya sometime probably at the end of this year. Why are we doing that? We think Voya is going to have better customer service. Basically, their website is a little more user-friendly, have more tools, and they have a little better security record. So you don't have to do anything. We're just letting you know our website's probably going to have to change, or when you log in, some of those steps are going to change when you make changes. So I'll probably be getting a lot of phone calls, but that's okay. So that will happen sometime shortly. Here's our contact information. The 800 number's a good number. If you can't reach me, there's people waiting in Jefferson City to take your calls. They do take a break between noon and 1 for lunch, so there won't be anyone there. So understand that. They are in a recorded line, so if you want to make a change, they can make changes without you having to log into Deferred Comp, as long as they can verify it's you they're talking to. We have an app and we have text alerts. Here's our team and our contact information. One thing, this number does forward to my cell phone number. If I call you back, my cell phone number is an 816 number. Maybe I'm out in the field. I don't get to the office a whole lot, so it's probably going to go to my cell phone number. If you're out there and you're in St. Louis today, or in another part of the state, even though I have the southwest part of the territory, and I'm doing web appointments tomorrow, and your financial education professional is not doing them for a week, and you want to talk to me, that's fine. And the same holds true if it's vice versa. You've talked to me a couple times, you want to get a different perspective. If it's virtually, it really doesn't matter who you reach out to. But I'm the person that gets out to the southwest part of the state. A lot of people like dealing with someone they've actually met in person. I know I'm that way to a certain extent. So if that's you, try to find the person that has your territory. That is the end of our presentation. So Mary, if you can help me out, you said you copied it to the chat. It says, is it better to choose based on standard retirement date or early retirement date for 2050 standard? Are you talking? Okay, I think this person's talking about target date funds. All right, and those target date funds are just how your money's split up, or divided up. So I think more than looking at either of these dates is, when do you think you're actually going to need this money? So if you don't think you're going to need money until 2070, or I'm not going to actually start withdrawing from deferred comp until the year 2070, the year 2070 may be the best target date for you. But if you think you're going to need the money in 5 years, then that 2030 fund may be the right target date for you. I hope I answered that question the way you wanted, or I read it the way. I'm not 100% sure, but I think you're talking about which target date to choose. But if you know you're close to retiring and you're a little uncomfortable with the market, you may want to go to a date that's already passed, because those are the most conservative investments. All right. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me this afternoon. That does conclude my part of the presentation. I'm going to hang on here. Maybe there's another question or something, but like I said, if you need any help with any of this, feel free to reach out. I think one thing that can put your mind at ease is I'm not working on commission. I'm a salaried employee. So I'm just here to help people. So I'm not going to be pushy trying to get you into some high commission investment so I get paid better. I'm just here to help people out.
Jesse, there was one more question. Can you go back to that page, that worksheet where you were talking about the subtracting the age and from 90 and adding your age and your service and figuring, dividing it by 2, figuring that part?
Okay. So once again, and I repeat this several times because it is a little confusing, trying to figure out how many years it is until you're going to meet your normal retirement eligibility. Mary told you how to go online and the MPERS website and find that number. So we're using some quick math to try to just to guesstimate here. So you take your number of years you've already worked for the state of Missouri. You're going to add that to your age. And then you're going to subtract that number from 90. Years of service plus your age, add those together, subtract that from 90. Once you get that answer, divide by 2, so half of that number will tell you approximately how many years it will be until you can retire with the pension. Now, it can be a little off, a few months off, depending on your hire date and your birth date, but that'll get you in the ballpark. All right, and once you get that number, add that back to the number of years you've already worked, and that should get you the total number of years you worked for the state of Missouri when you retire. In this example, this person will have 26 years of service. And then you multiply that times 17% or 0.017, and it's just a little bit more than 44% if it's 26. And then come down here and try to figure out how much you're going to get from Social Security. This example, 74%. So that's going to leave you with a 26% gap. And that's what we were trying to fill in when we were looking at those examples with the Grow Your Retirement Savings Calculator. Try to come up with a plan in this example to get you to 100%. All right, any other questions out there?
Those are the only ones that I see. And that other question, that first one that I sent in the chat, you answered that one, and you took care of re-explaining that again on this second one. So I think that covers it.
Awesome. Like I said, thank you, Mary, and thanks to everyone out there taking part of their day to listen to me talk about this stuff.
Excellent. Thank you, Jesse. Thanks for joining us and all of that great information to help the employees get everything planning out towards their retirement. I know we've hit you all with a lot of information today. It's kind of meant to give you some food for thought. We don't want it to be overwhelming, but it might end up being. But that's why we want to try to start these presentations earlier, so you have time to participate in them more than once and get you thinking about that retirement and let you start planning for it. Couple things. Remember, or maybe I haven't mentioned it yet, there will be a survey after when you sign off of the presentation today. We would appreciate your thoughts on how we did today or the information that you received. Is there anything that we can do better or in addition for future presentations to help employees out? And if you're not able to take the survey today, you will get a reminder tomorrow, I believe, and maybe another one next week if you're able to do it then. Maybe getting close to the end of your day and not having time today, and that's fine. And then also, these presentations are recorded. So the recording of this presentation will be posted on our website. So as you let the information sink in for a day or two, or a week or a month or two, and you want to go back and review it again, there's almost always one of these presentations available, the recording available on our website. So feel free to go to the MPERS.org website and go back to the mid-career section where you signed up, and you can revisit this presentation as well. As Jesse said, also, if you've got questions for us later, please reach out to us. Email is benefits@mpers.org. And then the phone number we had listed there, all of that contact information as well is listed in the email that I sent you yesterday that I think everybody should have received. So I don't see any other questions. So I think that covers everything else for us today. So I hope you've got some good information, good food for thought as you continue throughout your career with the state. And if there's anything that we can help you with in the future, please reach out to us. Thank you. Have a great day.